Coming up tonight, we are back with our summer reading list. This time, Matt's book, The Wind-Up Bird Chronicle. Plus, we preview the new XFL teams and talk a little bit about James Bond. It's a whole heck of an episode starting for you right now. This is Up for Debate, episode number 156, recorded August 22nd, 2019. Summer Book Club, The Wind-Up Bird Chronicle. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Up for Debate, the debate show where the two hosts agree on everything. I am Sean Jennings, joined as always by our very own wind-up bird, Mr. Matt Mariani. Hello, Matt.
How's it going, Sean?
I don't know how it's going, Matt. How is it going? You tell me. You tell me.
Well, I think somebody might be a little bit confused about a certain book.
Not confused. Annoyed.
Annoyed.
Big difference.
All right. Well, let's unpack this a little bit. To be fair, in my defense, you kind of chose this book.
Again, Matt, I will say, I haven't said whether or not I like the book or not. Don't get ahead of me on that. Here's what I'm saying. Is in the back of your mind somewhere, when you pitched up your 4 books for that episode, did at any point you say, this book is so big and complex, it will be impossible to have a sane discussion in about 40 minutes on?
Well, I was thinking exactly the opposite, that it's so big and complex, it would have much to talk about. Also, I did not imagine this would be the book you would
So you
choose.
chose it like,
I really didn't think this would be the one.
Book.
I think I said this in the episode. I think I said, of all the books that I pitched, this was like the last one that I thought you were going to pick. And like you had the sleep book, which seemed like you'd be interested in.
Michael
had, like,
Crichton. Everyone loves Michael
science
Crichton.
And facts and stuff. And there was a Michael Crichton book of your choice.
Yeah.
Like you could have picked any Michael Crichton book.
And I bought
one. Gotham.
I was never going to read.
It was enormous. Like it was a
that
behemoth.
Was even worse than this.
But to be fair, I didn't think you were going to look up the page number. I thought maybe the premise would hook you or interest you, and you like the history books. So
I bought it, so I'll read it eventually.
Yeah, or it'll just sit somewhere. I don't think it'll fit on a bookshelf.
It's on mine,
it's so
barely.
big, but
barely.
Yeah. You could use it to I guess bash in burglars. Yeah, attack home invaders.
I can use it to press flowers. All kinds of great
home
stuff.
defense. Yeah.
So here's the thing, Matt.
Yeah.
We will talk about this book this episode. Here's what I'm going to tell the people listening to us at home. I'm going to come out and say, Matt, do you like this book?
Do you want me to give my opinion so early?
Let me say this. Would you recommend people read it?
I think so. I think that everybody should read it just to see whether they like it or not. It's one of those very much a litmus test books, I think.
I would also recommend people read it. And the reason why I'm asking you this, Matt, is because we're going to spend the first part of the episode catching up with some XFL and James Bond stuff. Please listen to that. It's going to be fun and entertaining. When we get to the book part, don't listen to it unless you've read the book. Because A, we're going to spoil some stuff. I think this book would be better off not having been spoiled. And B, you're not going to understand what we're talking about. But Matt and I both recommend you go read the book. So listen to the first part, take a break, go read the book, come back, listen to the second part. Fair enough?
I think that's fair. Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's pretty reasonable. So, all right.
Do you want to start with Bond or the XFL?
I want to start with the XFL.
Okay. We had a big announcement.
XFL,
For folks who didn't listen last fall, we did a Up for Debate Presents series about the history of the original run of the XFL back in 2000-2001. XFL is back next year, 2020, and we've been waiting for some news. We got it this week. The announcement of the 8 teams, their names and their logos. We knew the cities already, but the names and the logos of these teams, Matt. Are you ready for the big reveal?
Oh, yeah. I am so ready. I mean, I found the reveal. Like, I read about it, but I'm ready to talk about it with you. Yeah.
Well, now, did you watch the little videos they produced for each team?
I sure did.
The vastly overproduced classic XFL. Other than the bikini girls missing, it's classic XFL.
I loved every minute of these videos, Sean.
Can I read you some of these?
Yeah,
okay.
Go for it.
Here we go. Deep in the heart of Texas beats a different kind of pulse. A spirit untamed. A swagger that can't be denied. Where big meets bold meets badass. This is outlaw country inside the lines. This is hell on wheels between hash marks. This is their home on the range. The Dallas Renegades. Raising Hell. February 2020. And they did one of these for each city.
Yeah. I'm trying to where did you find that?
If you go to the XFL.com and you click on any one of the teams under choose a city, they have all of the descriptions.
I'm going to try to find my favorite one. I think it was the DC Defenders.
Oh, DC Defender was good.
I think that was my favorite one. All right, yeah, a force united. Wait, no. I started in the middle. Okay. Scratch that. Okay. On the shoulders of giants, they stand tall, unconquerable, unyielding, marching ever forward. A force united. One quest, one purpose, one resolve. Seeking glory through grit. Victory through valor. The DC Defenders taking their stand. February 2020.
Oof. Weak stuff, man. This is bad. So let's go through the 8 teams and their names. We have the Dallas Renegades. Their logo is a bandito of sorts. We have the Houston Roughnecks. Their logo is an oil derrick with an H in it. The Los Angeles Wildcats. Their logo is a stylized LA. The New York Guardians. Their logo is I believe to be some sort of gargoyle type head. The St. Louis Battlehawks, who have a sword with wings. The Seattle Dragons, who have a dragon. The Tampa Bay Vipers, which is a V with fangs. And the Washington, D.C. Defenders, who have a shield with lightning bolts on it. Matt, your snap thoughts on these team names?
Sean, I think all right. I think some of them are pretty good. I think some of them are kind of weird. I would agree. I guess how should we do this? Do you want to tackle them one team at a time? Do you want to pick like our favorites, or I think that all right. Well, how about we do like maybe a pros and cons? Maybe that's a good way
there's
to
only
do
8 of them, so let's go through and we'll just quickly give our pros and cons on each. Starting, we'll do them in alphabetical order by city name, starting with the Dallas Renegades.
All right.
Good or bad?
First impression I get when I hear the Dallas Renegades is I think of the Renegade steak from Texas Longhorn Steakhouse. So I don't know if that's good or bad. That's just a first impression of the Renegade. Also, I don't really like the name. I think maybe like the word renegade means like they're like treasonous or sketchy. Like not it's definitely not my favorite name. However, I think the logo is pretty cool. The logo is like a man with a cowboy hat with one of those bandana obscuring his face, and he has like piercing red eyes. I think that's a cool logo. A good color pattern they've got going on. So overall, I think I'd give it like a B-.
Yeah, I agree. I think the icon is the most classic XFL. Like, it's the only one to me that's like, this guy's going to mess you up. Whereas some of these other ones are like the LA one we'll get to, but that's a joke. The name, I don't mind it. I think it's good. Again, I want the classic XFL name. I think Renegade gets closer than some of these. I think it's fine. I think it's like upper middle of the pack. I'd agree with your sort of B-B.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's also kind of interesting to note that the Dallas Renegades are the only human logo.
That is true.
Mm-hmm.
That is true.
So
good eye. The Houston Roughnecks and their H in the oil derrick. What do we think of this?
Now, all right. On the name, this is the exact reverse of of what I think about the Renegades. The Roughnecks have a cool name. I think it's a really neat name. I had to look up what a roughneck was because I had never heard the term before. And Webster's defines it as a rough and uncouth person or an oil rig worker.
Yep.
So I had never heard the term before. I like it. I think it's a cool name, the Roughnecks. It's as far as I know, certainly no professional team has it. I don't think any college has it either. I've never heard of the Roughnecks. It very much sounds like it would be like a minor league baseball team.
Yeah.
or
Well,
something.
all of these kind of sound like minor league baseball teams, to be fair.
Oh yeah, I guess when you when you look at them, yeah,
It's like, wait, isn't that an arena football team?
that is true. Very true. I like the H. Now we get to the logo. Not so sold on the logo either. I think it's too reminiscent of the Houston Oilers. I think it's maybe they were trying to make an homage to their time, but I'm pulling up the Oilers logo now.
It's
No,
similar.
and
It's similar without the
it has
H.
similarities. It does, but I mean, yeah, I guess there's only so many ways you can draw an oil rig. So I'll give him benefit of the doubt. I think my rank for this would be I'd give it a B. I'd give him a solid B on this.
Yeah, I kind of go the other way. I like that it's an homage to the Oilers. I actually think that's a good idea. While I think the execution is just okay, I appreciate what they were going for. I like Roughnecks on paper, as you mentioned. I think the definition applies, but I think saying Houston Roughnecks doesn't quite sound like a real team to me. I like it. I like the idea about as much as I like the Dallas Renegades, so I will also do about a B plus, maybe a little better than the Renegades, but right in the middle of the pack. I wouldn't say it's my favorite.
The Houston Roughnecks going to work for you, February 2020.
Be there. They may be playing the LA Wildcats, the Los Angeles Wildcats. Their logo, a stylized LA in orange and soft red, I guess I would say. I'll start on this one. This is definitely the laziest, I think, of all of these. I'm not going to say it's bad because I actually think some of these other ones are worse, but it is lazy, both in name as the Wildcats, which has nothing interesting about it, and the fact that this is the only logo that is only letters. And it's if you just saw that LA, you would think it was like a hip restaurant or something. The logo itself. It's got nothing to do with Wildcats. It's got nothing to do with football. It's got nothing to do with anything. I just think this is really lazy.
Yeah.
Though it will look really good on a t-shirt.
That's yeah. I guess
it just doesn't scream football.
You could argue that this looks like the one that whoever was in charge kind of like put it off to the last minute and then maybe like even scribbled something down at the pitch meeting or on the way to the like in the elevator like on the way to the pitch meeting. Very lazy, very lazily done. It really is just a script LA. And there's in my opinion, there are too many teams, too many LA teams use this exact same logo already. I mean, not the exact same, not the same style, but it's very, very similar.
It's similar to the LA Galaxy.
You think the LA Galaxy is almost exactly like an exact copy of the LA Galaxy logo.
Yep.
But you think even the LA Angels, the LA Dodgers,
the Kings,
the LA Kings, like every single one has the LA on it, and I don't know. It's very lazy for me. Wildcats is also kind of a lazy name.
Hilariously generic.
That's like your high school football team or the Wildcats.
LA Wildcats sounds like if you like made a TV show about a professional football team but couldn't legally use NFL names, like that's the name you make up, the LA Wildcats.
Exactly. Yeah, you're 100% on that one.
I also don't.
Yeah, I would say a C, even a C minus maybe, because the color scheme, it's very. I always associate that like that orange and red, kind of with I guess with the Arizona, New Mexico, like the desert. Even though like LA is still in the desert, it's just not. It's not the colors that they really use. Orange especially. I don't think any of the LA teams have orange. So Wildcats. Definitely a hard pass on that one. So enter their den and be dominated. February 2020.
Pass.
Yeah.
I want to pass. Next up, we've got the your New York Guardians.
I would venture to say that they might also be your New York Guardians, seeing as that they did not include a New England team, and this would be the closest franchise. Did that kind of surprise you?
No, what it is. Honestly, it's a weather thing, and I think we might have touched on this in the XFL episodes. But because it is a spring league, they don't like to put the teams up north because when they start playing in February, there's snow issues. The AAF did that as well, where they try and keep the teams as south as possible. And you'll look outside of New York, maybe DC, but and Seattle, I guess, but it's really not as much of a snow concern out there. But the rest are kind of southern teams, so no, that doesn't surprise me. I don't think New England is a big enough market to support both an NFL and an XFL team. Guardians, I like. I think the name alone is kind of not memorable, the Guardians, but I like the angle they took. I like the gargoyle, New York, Gotham. I like that angle. I think the logo is striking. I think it's attention-getting. I like how the New York Guardians is stylized and its sort of stylized logo. I think it looks really good. I would say this is probably, there's only 8. I'd say it's in my top 4. I think it is one of the better ones. Not my favorite, but I think it's solid.
So what would you put it?
I would give this like a B+, maybe a little bit A-, but mostly B+.
Yeah. I guess we'll start with the name, the New York Guardians. I'm not crazy about the name. Number one, I don't really like that they dropped New Jersey from the, you had the New York, New Jersey Hitmen of the former XFL. I wasn't crazy about Hitmen back then, but something about the font, something about the style of the font, I really like.
Yeah.
I like that it looks kind of Art Deco, which I think fits the city aesthetic perfectly. I like the color scheme.
Yes.
Really, I'm a big fan of the black, silver, and red.
Yep.
I think that looks really, really cool, and I think the uniforms are going to look really sick. Something tells me I'll be purchasing a New York Guardians apparel sometime in the near future. What I do think is a missed opportunity, though, I think the logo itself is shaped a little bit weirdly. I wish they had kind of taken the NY, kind of like almost the Giants logo, and like how it's an N, and maybe like put this logo into an NY form or something shaped like an NY. I think that would look cool. None of the all the other, you look at the other, some of the other ones have regional designs, like the Houston Roughnecks. Los Angeles is the laziest regional design, but it is a regional, you do know where they're from. And DC has it right on the shield there, so.
Yeah, and what's funny about the Guardians logo is if you had told me that was the Wildcats logo, I probably would have believed you. I don't think it's got enough Guardian New York in it. I agree with you.
Yeah, it's called the Guardians, but maybe it should have been the Gargoyles, because it looks like a gargoyle is what that's the. And if you watch the little preview, they do show like gargoyles in the video.
Yeah, that's the whole thing.
So it's fine, and I think a solid a B+. I would say B+ is fair. Yeah.
All right. Next up, your St. Louis Battlehawks, with their shield and wings logo, a reference to St. Louis's rich aerospace, aeronautics, airplane history. I think this is, of the names alone, Battlehawks is the most XFL name, I think, among these. I'm kind of. I think the logo's really good. I think it's going to look good on a t-shirt and good on a uniform. But it's kind of vague to me, the whole thing. It's like, it's not memorable. Like when you, at some point in the future, you're going to be like, Sean, what are the 8 XFL teams? Battlehawks is going to be the one I forget. I guarantee you. Because it's St. Louis, which really isn't a major market. Like, the only reason they put a team there is because they lost the Rams, and they had an open stadium. But I think it's a good attempt. I think it's solid. It's definitely in the middle of the pack. I would not say it was bad.
Of all the logos, maybe besides the Wildcats, I think this is probably the laziest one. Just a sword with wings. I don't know. It's something. It looks like it would be a brand for a child's toy, like the Battle
Ooh, like
Hawks.
based on a cartoon you've never seen?
Exactly. Yeah, they would like you would go to the store and buy like get your mom to buy you these Battle Hawks. Like,
I agree with that.
what were the? Now that reminds me. Remember the toys that had the you would pull them and they would like fly. You know what I'm talking
I
about?
know what you're talking about. I don't know what they're called.
They would like spin.
Yeah.
They had like different. That was a huge fad, like
I
a
was
huge
not
craze.
allowed to play with those. My parents were afraid it'd put our eyes out.
Yes, they were probably right. I remember definitely. Remember definitely having a lot of fun with them, but I also remember them being pretty. Some of them could be pretty dangerous for the kiddos. But anyway, the Battlehawks is what I would call a toy that was like that, where you like pull the string really fast and it like flies.
And then it breaks like
that.
5 minutes after you start playing with it.
And then you cry and yeah. Hmm. And I'm not too crazy about the logo either. St. Louis Battlehawks probably going to be very forgetful.
Yeah.
But they are cleared to engage. February 2020.
Yeah.
All in all, yeah, I'm going to say a C, just a C.
Fair enough.
This one. Mm-hmm.
Next up, your Seattle Dragons. Their logo, a dragon. I think the logo is certainly the most action-packed logo of the bunch. Perhaps the most rendered. I hate the name. I hate the name. I really hate the name. It doesn't make any sense. The Seattle Dragons don't make any sense whatsoever. Even like the Seattle Leviathans or the sea. I'm just trying to think of like a more water-based, like something that would exist in the Pacific.
How about the Sea Dragons? The Seattle Sea Dragons.
It goes with the Seahawks. Much better idea. Or the Seattle Bigfoots or something, like a creature that's known for being in that area.
Okay.
But I don't get it. And also,
they could pull out like some kind. If they want to go for that mythology lore route, like pull out some sort of like Northwest Pacific native mythology. Don't go borrowing mythology from halfway across the world.
It's one of those things where it's like, if I went, hey, Matt, is the Dallas Renegades an XFL team? You'd be like, yeah, probably. Or if I were like, we're the St. Louis Battlehawks. Are they an XFL team? You'd probably. If I go with the Seattle Dragons, that sounds like a WNBA franchise. Like, that could be literally anything. It's so vague.
Seattle Dragons. It could also be like their FC team, like the soccer team, the Dragons.
At least the Wildcats sound like a football team. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's lazy, but at least it's applicable.
Yeah.
I just don't get it.
I don't know. See, I actually really like this. Okay. I like the logo. I like the color scheme. I'm always a fan when sports franchises try color schemes that you don't often see. Like, I love the throwback Arizona Diamondbacks uniforms of the mid 90s, mid to late 90s. That was that indigo and
that teal
sort of. Like, that was cool. I thought that was really cool because it was unusual, and I hated when they changed it because then they picked red, of course, like 50% of the other MLB teams out there. And I love when sports franchises do that, and the Dragons have that green, orange, and blue are their colors. I think their uniforms are going to look pretty sick too, and I think that the logo is really badass. It's got like a lot of and even this one, like at least the dragon is the way its head is reared back. It looks almost like an S. Of course, they didn't fully commit to it. I think if they had maybe contoured the bottom part a little bit, it would be like an S, like a Seattle. But I like it. I think I'm going to give it an A-.
Okay, I'm going to give it a B. It's not bad. I just don't get it.
I'm kind of with you on the name. I don't think it's the best name. Seattle Serpents,
much better.
Seattle Sea Dragons,
love it. Seattle. See, if you were just like, oh, it's that football team, the Dragons. I'm like, oh, is that one of those old NFL Europe teams where it was like, the Berlin Dragons? I would have been like, yeah, no, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Next up, we have your Tampa Bay Vipers. Their green V with the yellow fangs on it. I think, again, this is a real XFL name, the Vipers. I think that stands up to the rough tradition of the league. I like the name. I hate the logo. I think the V's weak. I think if you didn't have the name under it, you'd be like, oh, is that the logo for some new vape juice or something? I don't quite. It doesn't have it's kind of like the LA logo where it just doesn't have enough going on for me. But I like the name. I think the name is fine. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, Tampa Bay Vipers. It flows. It has flow. The Tampa Bay Vipers. I like it. I like saying it. The name is good. It also makes sense because I'm sure that you could find, if not vipers, there are dangerous snakes all over Florida. No, I'm also, but that being said, I'm a big fan of the colors, Sean. I think that the that green and that yellow is something that you don't really see too often in sports teams, and I just hope that when the Vipers play the Dragons, there's enough. I guess there'll be enough because the Dragons have blue and orange there too, and the Vipers have the yellow. But I think it's pretty solid. I think the name is definitely better, but the logo of the Dragons is better.
Oh, 100%.
So
100%. Not even close.
Yeah, we'll say it's a B+ or so.
I'm gonna give it a C+.
C+.
C+. It's fine.
Yeah, it's not the most exciting logo.
No.
Also, because it's a Viper, you would think it would be there's nothing that V doesn't look like a Viper. It doesn't look like it's.
No, it could be for anything.
It could be anything. That's right. It looks like an energy drink.
It does.
Yeah.
Viper. That's a good name for an energy drink. Our final team, your Washington, D.C. Defenders, and their shield logo with the lightning bolts. Clearly, there is 100% some soccer club somewhere that they ripped this off. This looks like every FC shield logo I've ever seen.
It's a logo that looks like it's rife with deeper meanings that I'm sure don't exist.
No. Again, if you show this to me and I'd be like, oh yeah, that's the Washington, D.C. football team. I don't even know their name, but that's definitely their logo. Because that shield is so, to me, associated with soccer.
Yeah. The only thing I will say, I mean, the white and red is the color of the DC flag. So, and it also has the stars on it. So I guess and I'm looking up if the DC flag has, it has 3 stars on it. So it is I guess true to its city, probably more so than most of these other logos are. That being said, though, I again missed opportunity. If they had just spent a little bit more time, and maybe this is just the story of the it was the story of the XFL the first time, is rushing into things. But if they had spent a little more time designing it, what I would have done with this logo, why not? It's got the four-sided shield. How about a 5-sided for the Pentagon? You see, a 5-sided Pentagon.
Us, man.
I totally agree. And that's all. That's kind of all I would probably change on this. I don't love the lightning bolts. It's a little too comic book for me. But I would change the shield into. I mean, I guess they want it to be like a defender, but the Pentagon is more iconic and native to DC. So I don't know. It's fine. The name is weird. I don't like the name. I don't love the name. The DC Defenders.
It's flat.
It's a boring name. It sounds like a show you would find on Netflix.
The DC Defenders.
The DC Defenders, right? It's a little too like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But what are you gonna do?
Well, how about this, Matt? Because we spent plenty of time talking about this. Why don't you give me your top 3? Give me your top 3 of 8. The 3 that you think did the best job of both logo and name.
My top 3 combined?
In no particular order.
I would say the Guardians, the Dragons, and the Roughnecks. I like the name Roughnecks. So
Yeah, I agree with you on the Guardians and the Roughnecks, and I'm going to give it to the Renegades because I think their logo is pretty good. They sound pretty tough. So this is fun. It's exciting. We know a little bit more about the league now. We can start purchasing our merchandise.
Oh, can you? I haven't.
No, not literally. Their site's like next week we'll have stuff with the logo on it.
Yeah, I was going to say the XFL would not be that proactive.
Yeah, it says the gear site is coming soon.
Yeah. See, this is another problem. They probably should have and you can buy them today.
Well, I was about to say you're probably right though, Matt. They were still working on this like 2 weeks ago.
Right. I would say even like as early as like midweek last week they probably
scrambling.
Oh my God, we still don't have that St. Louis Battlehawks logo. What are we gonna do? So, well, it'll be fun. It'll be fun to watch this for one season, and then it'll become another relic of the past.
Mark down those words, Matt. We'll see.
remember when?
Remember when we're all big XFL fans.
Yeah, you remember when the XFL came back? Yeah, that was.
And then it like overtook the NFL. That was crazy.
I don't know about that.
It's exciting. We'll be following XFL news for the foreseeable future, so come back here for more as it develops. Matt, we also had another big update this week on our other Big Presents series, our big James Bond rewatch. Are you ready for Bond 25 to get an official name?
I thought I was ready, but
apparently you're not. Daniel Craig returns as James Bond 007 in No Time to Die. Out April 8th, 2020. Dun, 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 dun. It's got this sort of a throwback, I don't know what you call it, logo.
Yeah.
I don't know what that typeface is. I'm sure it has a name.
Sean, I want to try an experiment with you.
Please
before we get into whether we like the name or dislike the name. Okay. Now, I don't know how feasible this is, but I want you to think back or pull up maybe an image of the logos for all of the Daniel Craig movies thus far. And then look at this one and just tell me how out of place and uncomfortable it makes you.
Oh, it's totally different. I don't disagree with that at all. This is, and in fact, this is, I think, intended to be a throwback. That's exactly why they went with this typeface. 100%.
I was really hoping that this would be some kind of and I'm still kind of holding out hope that this title is like a misdirect. I don't like the title. I don't like it at all. I hate this title.
Okay.
I'm just going to come out and say
honest.
I hate this title so much. It doesn't. No Time to Die, right? Is the title for our new movie Bond 25 is called.
Yep.
To die. It doesn't make any sense. No Time to Die, like you don't have enough time to die, or it's like Die Another Day, and I hated that name for
it is exactly based on that.
Like how many times are you going to use Die Another Day, Tomorrow Never Dies, Live and Let Die? It's too much with that. I really liked how the Daniel Craig titles were so unique. Skyfall, Quantum of Solace, Casino Royale. They were all unique and yet believable as Ian Fleming titles. Like you could believe that Ian Fleming would have.
It harkens back to Goldfinger, Thunderball.
Yes. I don't like No Time to Die. It is Fleming-esque, but it's also kind of, it seems like it fits better with the Roger Moore era of films than, or maybe late Connery, than it does a modern Craig film.
It 100% sounds like a Roger Moore film.
Roger Moore.
If you said Roger Moore is 007 in No Time to Die, I'd be like, yes, okay, Now
I will let my theory go here, Sean, and I've been very excited to bring this up again. Okay. Sean, do you remember when we were talking about our theories for Bond 25 and what we thought the movies were going to be about, what this new movie was going to be about?
Vaguely.
And do you remember when I suggested to you my theory about Dr. No reappearing.
Yes, I do
I
vaguely
think
remember that.
maybe now this is just wild speculation, but that's what we do here on Up for Debate. Um, maybe this is a step in my direction, going towards like my theory that Doctor No may be by the title being No Time to Die.
Doctor No Time to Die.
See what I'm saying? Like, it's very, like you said, it's a, kind of a throwback, and I just think that the villain, whose name I'm forgetting, the actor who played him, Freddie Mercury. No, not Freddie Mercury. He played
Rami Malek.
Rami Malek. Thank you. Rami Malek would be.
He could be Doctor No.
I think he would be a pretty good Doctor No. I definitely see it happening. So.
I think that would be exceptionally stupid, but I think you could be. It's not a bad theory.
Yeah. So.
There was an updated synopsis also released with the title, "In No Time to Die, Bond has left active service and is enjoying a tranquil life in Jamaica. His peace is short-lived when his old friend, Felix Leiter from the CIA, turns up asking for help. The mission to rescue a kidnapped scientist turns out to be far more treacherous than expected, leading Bond onto the trail of a mysterious villain armed with dangerous new technology." Yeah, Matt, I agree with you on the Dr. No theory. I think that's solid. I don't hate the name. Here's the thing I feel about the James Bond titles, is the title has to, I don't care if the title's good or not, the title has to match the movie. I don't mind that Die Another Day is a crappy title, because it's named after a crappy movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I kind of feel that way with like Skyfall and Casino Royale is a good title for a good movie, you know? And so I have to see the movie to really judge whether or not this is a good title. If you're just taking it on face value, I don't hate it. Again, you're right, it is a bit of a throwback title. Same with the typeface. But again, you got to remember, this is Daniel Craig's last turn as Bond. He is turning over the reins to someone else, and it would not surprise me if they're going to use the entire movie as a way to kick back the franchise a little less sort of back to where it was with Connery and that sort of stuff, where it's a little bit slower, it's not quite as quick-cut action-y. I don't know what they're after yet, because it's a little early, but I have a feeling this typeface is telling us something about the movie we don't know yet. You have to remember there's a new director on board, and I think this movie is going to take an interesting direction in terms of style and things of that nature. That's my prediction for this movie, is they're using this to set up a whole new direction for the franchise. And it won't be dark and gritty. That's not the direction anymore. They're not doing Skyfall. Again, they're not.
No. So you think that they're going to be writing for the next Bond?
Well,
I can see that.
The rumor is what the actress's name, Lashana Lynch, who will be in this, rumored as a potential replacement for Daniel Craig, going in the direction of a woman, someone who's African American. I think this is the movie where you throw everything out the window, like Casino Royale did in a lot of ways. We talked about this. When you transition to a new Bond, you have to start strong. And I don't think they're waiting for whether it's Lashana or anyone else to have their own movie. They're using this movie to set that up. That's what you get in the title. That's what you get in the typeface.
Yeah.
Is my guess.
We'll have to see. Oh, yeah, I know. We didn't get a chance to talk about that, but I know that the internet just about lost its collective mind when the I don't even want to call it an announcement, because it wasn't really an announcement. It was something that was leaked. Mm-hmm. But it's one of those leaks that was like obviously done on purpose or intentionally to drum up hype. Now, all we know is that 007 will be played by a woman for the first time. That a woman will take on the role of 007, right? So that could mean anything. I mean, that could mean what? It could mean that the code name 007 is used by a woman. Well, doesn't necessarily mean that the character of James Bond will be a woman. Correct. It just means that the code name. And I mean, the only thing we know about the plot of the movie so far is that James Bond is missing.
Well, he's retired. So, he's not missing. He's retired, which means the 007 moniker has nobody under it at the moment.
Yes, and I think it was also hinted at that he needs to be called out of retirement or
Yes.
something. So
Mm-hmm.
so the prevailing theory now is at least that um, the female Bond is going, or the female 007. See, now I'm saying it too. The female 007 is going to go out and find Daniel Craig Bond and either bring him back into service, or I'd like to see maybe team up with him in some level, in some degree, as like his swan song and his like passing the torch. Where the character goes, I don't think anybody really knows.
Right.
It would just all be complete speculation from here. Um, but yeah, definitely it's going to be his last film as Bond, and I don't know. I don't really know. It's also up in the air right now, and there's been so many problematic things happening on set,
Oh
and
yeah, rumors and
about
injuries and
a riot or a overall like almost strike going
yep.
on the set. Like things have not been good. Not to mention the filming schedule, I guess, has been very difficult. It's very hard to book Rami Malek and Daniel Craig opposite each other. So
Yep.
we'll see.
Well,
We'll
and
see. But
one other report that came out that we haven't mentioned yet over the course of the show is that Christoph Waltz is returning as Blofeld in this movie, and what impact that will have on the plot as well is very interesting. So this is going to be has the potential to be a hot mess of a film. It also could be very interesting. Certainly, at minimum, a lot going on.
yeah, yeah, and I mean, we'll definitely go see it. So
Oh yeah, for sure.
yeah,
Cool.
but so it has a name. It's No Time to Die.
No Time to Die.
Now, I will say that it lends itself to song lyrics very easily. Like, I think it would be very easy for somebody to come
Yeah,
up
I
with.
think we played this
lyrics.
game before. Who we wanted to sing the next theme song.
Yeah. Well, now that it has a title, I don't know. It's going to be the pop culture that'll determine that.
See, I think they're going to go throwback.
Throwback.
Because I think music is so fractured now that there's no like one big star who would do it. So here's are you ready for my prediction? I'm going to throw something out there so insane.
Duran Duran.
Awesome idea, but no. Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Huh. That is pretty insane.
Because
But
I think
believable.
they would do a great job. I think they have worldwide name recognition even today. I think they're cheap to hire and they're still making new music. That's my prediction.
But their vibe, and you know what? I mean, I was gonna say that their vibe is so not Bond, but the new aesthetic of the film, it's like a little more laid back, kind of like their music style is more like rhythmic and beachy.
Yeah,
But
I think
mean,
they could pull off a Bond song.
most of the or a large chunk of the movie is going to be in the Bahamas, and a large chunk of, or in Jamaica rather, a large chunk of it is going to be focused around Bond being retired. I could probably see that. I think
Jimmy Buffett.
would be smart. Yeah, totally. Jimmy Buffett.
No Time to Die could be a Jimmy Buffett song. Let's be honest.
Yes.
Like, that's why I'm retired on the beach. I got no time to die.
Yes. And it would have the steel drums going
Yep.
too, and
Yep.
yeah,
That's a good idea.
Parrot Heads.
Theme song by Jimmy Buffett. All right, Matt. Well, that's our Bond and XFL updates. We'll keep you up to date as news comes out and things progress. But Matt, we've got it only 45 minutes in. We got to get to the point that we are here, and that's to continue our summer book club. We each picked a book. Last week we discussed One Summer America 1927. It was a very nice episode. I recommend everyone check that out. It's one before this on the feed, episode 155. Tonight, Matt, The Wind-Up Bird Chronicle by Haruki Murakami.
Murakami.
I got it.
Yep.
Big book. My first question for you, Matt, is what did I just read?
Neji Makitori Kuronikuru.
That
I probably butchered that. But
that made it worse.
that is the Japanese name for this book. You read The Wind-Up Bird Chronicle, a novel published in 1995 by Japanese author Haruki Murakami.
Which, by the way, a book that's so long in Japanese, they actually didn't translate whole sections of it because it would have been like a 23,000 page book or some shit like that.
Yeah.
They skipped whole sections of the book in the translation.
So this is I want to say probably the most ambitious and well-known work of Murakami.
Who is ambitious.
Yeah. His writing style is often described as dreamlike. Sean, did you find that to be kind of it's very much like you're reading somebody's dream?
Yeah.
That's kind of how I felt it. Yeah.
This may be the best book I've ever read in the first person perspective.
Oh, did you say the best book you've ever read?
The best book I've ever read in the first-person perspective.
In the first-person perspective. Interesting.
Because I think I find books written in the first person are sometimes... This book does such a good job of putting you into the mind of the character, and just... I will say, again, kind of that dreamlike meandering... I don't know if part of that comes from the Japanese language or not, but the way things are described in the book, I found incredibly appealing. I felt like the descriptions were very thorough and really did make you feel like you were part of the book and you really understood what the characters were experiencing in a way I haven't read in many other books. So I do give this book a lot of credit for that.
Yeah. The book is broken up into 3 parts or books. The Book of the Thieving Magpie, the Book of the Prophesying Bird, and the Book of the Birdcatcher Man.
Yes, all taking place in the mid to late 80s in Japan.
Yeah, and you'll find that's kind of the style for the most part of Murakami is he sets it in the Japan that he came of age in, or that the Japan he was growing up in. A lot of imagery deals with warfare or post-warfare Japan, which would be very much like how he grew up and with the Japan he was raised. He was born in 1948, so it was right after World War II and the destruction of that war. Definitely has a large impact and a large influence on his writing style and the themes in his book. I'm not even going to try to talk about the plot.
No, you kind of have to, Matt. Because what if somebody's listening who hadn't read the book? So just a couple sentences. Okay. Just a couple sentences. Give them the plot.
So you have the narrator.
I mean, I can read the back of the... Do you want me to read the back of the book description?
No, that's all right. I'll just watch me try to flounder my way through this. The narrator, I think his name is Okada.
Yes,
right?
Toru
Okada.
Yeah.
Right? He I remember he's at his house and his wife calls him on the phone and she says that the cat is missing, right?
That kicks off the book.
And that's kind of the Alice in Wonderland, like the rabbit. So he goes to try to look for the cat, and it's kind of like he comes across all these different characters and misadventures along the way. There's a teenage girl who's like following him around, who pops up then I forgot her name.
May.
She's May, yeah. She May comes in and like says weird stuff. It's very much like a dream. Like when you wake up and you're like, wow, I had the weirdest dream. Like my neighbor was in it and she was talking to me about like about popsicles or whatever it was that she was talking about. And then all of a sudden there was like a talking cat, and then all of a sudden there were like these hoodlums, like these like gangsters that were hunting me down. I had to hide somewhere. It was it's very much like that. One of the other characters is Mr. Honda.
Yeah, Mr. Honda.
And he's Mr. Honda is like an old man who is he the he's like a wise old man
sort of, yes, in a sort of vaguely supernatural way that that current flows throughout the whole book. I use that term specifically. Yeah, I mean the book centers around Toru. I mean he's the main character. The book is told from his perspective, and his wife Kumiko, who's actually not really in that much of the book. She disappears. He later finds out that she's had a number of affairs, and it centers around that. And like you mentioned, yes, a number of characters come in and out. Some throughout the whole book, some kind of come and disappear. You talked about May, Lieutenant Mamiya, who was an officer in the army with Mr. Honda. The Kano sisters, Malta and Kreda. We've got Nutmeg and Cinnamon, the cat, as you mentioned. There are a number of characters who show up, and the book begins with Toru being a pretty boring, average guy. He has no job. He's essentially a stay-at-home guy. While his wife works, he cooks dinner, he does the laundry, and passes the days by. And as time goes on, these sort of insane things begin happening to him. And the interesting perspective for me was that he takes them all in strides, more or less. At no point does he stop and say this is too crazy, even as things get legitimately crazy.
Yeah, it is it's almost like a coming of age story. I mean, a lot of it has to do with like a power struggle. Yes. I see it, where Toru has kind of lost control of his life, or maybe never had control to begin with. He was always being told what to do, whether at school or at the job that he used to have, and lost, or especially with his wife, who's seems to be very controlling or dominating, or his wife's family as well. Have a lot of expectations for him, so he doesn't really have much agency. So as he goes around on this adventure, he kind of leaves his comfort zone in a way, and gains more agency. Like at first he wants to find the cat, then he wants to save Kumiko, but then he realizes that Kumiko like left on her own volition. That's kind of I guess the ultimate twist of the book, is that like she wanted to leave, and it's kind of alluded to along the way. It's pretty much he just doesn't want to accept that. But he goes on this this adventure, and I don't really know if he ever really finds himself, but at the end of the book, he does like kind of do things that you didn't expect him to do in the beginning of the book.
I mean, I would argue
kind of becomes more of a badass almost.
Well, I would argue the number one story, quote unquote, in the book is his journey and evolution as a character.
Yeah.
And him willing to accept the things that are happening around him, whether he has control of it or not. I think that's we didn't talk too much about Noboru, who is Kumiko's older brother. He's sort of the antagonist of the book. A public figure, a political figure, who throughout the book we learn that he's more or less evil, and is, has killed Kumiko's sister after raping her, and there's a whole bunch of stuff around that. But I think that's part of Toru's battle against Noboru, is that you're right, he's not in control of his life, but he sees Noboru as someone who's taking other people's control away from their own lives. And I think that's what infuriates him so much and drives him to defeat him in the end of the book.
Yeah. Yeah, so he definitely by force kind of reclaims his own agency, is the way that I saw it.
Yes,
he
absolutely.
Reclaims control.
Absolutely. And to me felt very and you might disagree with this, but I thought by the end of the book, he felt like a complete character. I felt like he made the circle journey all the way around by the final chapter of the book.
Yeah. He definitely, it's about him gaining empathy. Like he starts out as being very, just being very lethargic and passive. There's a word for it in Japanese that I'm trying to think of. If it's the one I'm thinking of, it's a hikikomori. A hikikomori is a Japanese term for one who is inward, confined, and socially awkward. Reclusive adolescents or adults who withdraw from society.
Yeah. And
seek extreme degrees of isolation and confinement. He's kind of like that, although most hikikomori are not married. He just happens to be, but. It almost, I mean, we start the book out with him in this very blasé lifestyle and unhappy marriage. You almost wonder if he maybe didn't even decide to do that. Maybe that was a decision that was like thrust upon him. Um, and you're right. We don't really see his wife too much in the book.
No.
She really is barely in it. Although she does kick off the action.
Yes, and concludes the book.
And concludes right. And when she goes, does she go and visit him in jail or something? Yeah.
Well, yeah. We at some point we do need to talk about the end of the book because I have thoughts on that.
Okay. Yeah. So I think alienation and like the struggle for agency kind of is just really the main driving themes in the book. So yeah. What did you think of the cat? Would you think the cat was symbolic of anything?
So here's the thing I feel about this book, Matt.
Yeah.
Overall, is that I feel like I got 80% of it. Like say this book has 5 levels to it, which you could argue maybe it does. I feel like I've gotten 4 of those levels. But I feel like there's some level that despite my best efforts, I just didn't get, because this book is complex where things on the surface actually mean other things, which actually mean other things, which means something else. Things like the cat coming back, I know there's how that changed the book, but then I was also trying but the wind-up bird means something, and the blue mark means something, and there was a lot of that where I got most of it, but I just didn't get all of it.
Yeah. As I read the book, I felt like there was a lot of symbolism going on. And
it was all symbolism.
It's very hard to. That's really all of Murakami's works have that. I've read several other books by him, and he always introduces objects or creatures, usually like creatures. He's very into like animals as acting as symbols for either people or ideas. Usually themes throughout the book. I thought that the cat kind of in a way like symbolized his contentment, like he was like his safety zone basically, because when the cat disappears he's forced to leave that safety zone of his house to go and look for it, and then when it comes back it seems to come back at like different stages of his development. Maybe in a way it like kind of earmarks his development as it keeps coming back. And then disappearing again throughout the book. Yeah. There's a lot to this book for sure.
Another thing I think the book did exceptionally well is I'm not bragging, but I'm usually pretty good at when books try and lay breadcrumbs to an outcome. I'm usually good at spotting them early. And this book did a really good job of setting up something that paid off 50 pages later in a way that I wasn't expecting or I enjoy. A good example of this is, randomly, this book loves to pop in and out of stories. It's multiple parallel stories in the past, in the future, they're all happening at the same time. You're jumping around a lot. Out of nowhere, they tell the story of a 6-year-old who hears the wind-up bird, finds a live heart buried under a tree, and he can't make a sound. And then way later in the book, there's a man who can't talk, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh shit, that's the kid from earlier, and it felt, but it felt natural to me. It's not like in a way that was super obvious. And there were a couple moments throughout the book where these characters, eventually you learn all the characters in the book, especially these past war stories, all relate to the main story in a way that I didn't see until they really put the pieces together for me. So I think this book did a good job of weaving all of these different narratives together in a way that 80% of the way made sense.
Yeah. There were another thing, like you mentioned, there were a lot of characters in the book.
Oh boy.
To keep track of.
It was a wide book.
Most of them have Japanese names, and that can be a bit of a challenge, but
especially with the history stuff. The history stuff, I get why it's there. I get why it's relevant to the story, but I know I often complain when we do book episodes that the book was too long. That's probably the most common feedback I have, and that's because I'm a millennial who doesn't like to read. And so I wish every book were shorter. I think the modern day stuff works really well in this book, and I wouldn't trim it down. But some of the war history stuff, And all these flashback stories, I really, by like the last third of the book, I was like, you gotta trim these down. Like, I don't need the full. I get maybe in Japan it's interesting because it's their history, and I was glad some of it was in there, but there was too much of it and it was too long. There's like where you go like 4 whole chapters where it's just nothing but, these sort of old stories that only tangentially relate to the current characters. That bugged me.
Yeah. Yeah, they talk about one of the soldiers defects, right? And he gets captured by the Mongolians army, and all during
The
World War
gentleman
II.
who's skinned alive. I mean, there's some graphic
Yes.
stuff in getting trapped in the well, obviously, and the relation that has to the well in the in modern day. There's a lot of very graphic stuff in the book in that respect.
Yeah.
The horrors of war, quote unquote.
It's definitely one of those books that you can unpack and talk about in terms of the symbolism of all these events. But I thought it was kind of cool. Did you notice the characters Malta and Creta?
Yep.
Like Malta and Crete, like the 2 islands in the Mediterranean. What did you think was would you think there was any kind of like symbolism there? I don't know. I didn't like, this isn't a fully developed thought, but like Malta is an island, Crete is an island, Japan is an island. Could there? I don't know. Like, islands are isolated, and isolation's one of the themes. I'm just kind of spitballing.
Yeah.
But
Well, this is one of those books like you could write an even bigger book on all the things that are in this book. It's annoying where you could go really deep and be like every single thing means something and make a good argument for it because it is so complex.
Yeah.
There's this whole sort of weaving narrative throughout the whole book of flow and the sort of I don't know if supernatural is the right word to use, but the sort of subconscious element that all of these characters are interacting with in dreams, in over the phone, obviously the well and entering this room 208, and this sort of nether place. I thought the book did a nice job with that. It didn't feel corny or cheesy. It felt well thought out. I find psychology as a whole very fascinating, and I think this book, leading all the way up, I had a feeling, as we start to talk about the end of the book, I had a feeling that Noboru was the dark force at the end. That didn't surprise me, but I think the way they introduced it and sort of weaved it throughout, it's not your time yet, you're not ready, you still have other things to learn before you come back and do it. I thought all of that was pretty well done throughout the book.
Yeah. It was kind of, I like the ways it was alluded to earlier in the book that Noboru was going to come back and become, he did seem to be the primary antagonist through much of it.
Oh yeah.
He never liked Toru, and was very, very clear on that. It had also that he was very much the opposite, like the polar opposite of Toru.
Oh,
We talked before about, he's much more outspoken, outgoing, confident. People seem to like him or gravitate towards him. He had a political career, a successful political career. Everything that Toru was not.
Mm-hmm.
Toru as being a shut-in, a recluse,
a quiet introvert,
Yeah. So that there was a lot of like opposite and opposing forces, and that was really the central one. Toru being the main character, the main protagonist, against the antagonist Noboru. But you also had Malta and Creta, which were kind of complements of each other. The brother and sister, the 2 children, Cinnamon and Nutmeg. They were also kind of, I guess in a way, opposites, right? You thought they were contrasted each other. I don't know. It was cool that they had. So the only one that didn't seem to didn't seem to have like really a polar opposite. I'm wondering Kumiko, the wife, unless you want to maybe May, because
No,
Maze doesn't seem to have
no.
a
Toru
pair
was
either.
Toru was her opposite.
Toru was.
Yeah, I think that's the whole point of their relationship and of the story. And why they sort of became distant. At least one of the reasons. I mean, there's other supernatural reasons, but I think that they are opposites, and that's his journey is to, in a way, have a better relationship with her towards the end. I think at the beginning of the book they're opposites. That's why they have nothing to talk about.
Yeah. Oh, but I mean, like they're not. I don't think they're like mirror images of each other.
No,
I,
no,
I
no,
think
no,
they're just
no.
not. They're just not very good for each other, which is pretty clear. Toru's. I think his like opposing force was Noboru. It's almost like a yin yang thing. But I could see that. I could see that with Kumiko not definitely not being a complimenting him.
Hmm.
But so how did you feel about the ending? Were you satisfied by the ending?
You know, I don't want to be dissatisfied, but I kind of am. I like, spoiler alert. I like the. I was surprised at the ending, and I liked that I was surprised because the book sets up this sort of fantasy version. They talk about these parallel worlds. They talk about this version where Toru goes and essentially beats Noboru to death with a bat, or is at least blamed for it. And I'm like, okay, yeah, that's interesting. And then at the end, you read the last chapter of the Chronicle, which is Kumiko writing a letter saying, I'm the one who has to do this. I'm the one who has to pull the plug on my brother. I don't care if I have to go to prison, I have to do it. And then in the last chapter, the book cuts to the future where she's done it. She's on trial, essentially, for killing him. And Toru is with Mei saying, essentially, I don't know what happens next, but this journey is over and we're starting another one. I'm a fan of the happy ending. I'm a fan of the cheesy, them falling in love and getting together again and everything's good in the end ending, but I appreciate that the book didn't go there. And I don't know. I didn't love the ending. I liked the ending. What did you think?
Um, I think I'm kind of in the same boat. I think that while not satisfying, the ending does show a progression of Toru. It shows that he he finally has willingness to kind of advocate and change things. But like you said, it was kind of it was just kind of convoluted, I guess, in a way. I don't really think it had to go to the places where it did. Especially with Kumiko and her whole situation.
I think it's the right ending for this book. I think if this book had gone with a more traditional ending, I think that kind of defeats the purpose of the whole book. I think what it did was it set up a sequel that was never written. That to me is the problem, because I finished reading, I'm like, great, where's the next one? And they're like, what do you mean there is no next one? This is the end? That's the unfortunate thing for me. I think if there had been another book, this would have been a really good ending, because you are left with essentially what is a cliffhanger. You don't know what happens to Toru and Kumiko at the end.
Yes, this does feel like a perfect time for a sequel, or a perfect ending for a sequel that never happened. But you also had the translations and missing chapters.
Yes.
So you had like I don't know, something like 2,000 pages that were never translated, or
About 25,000 words.
yeah. So I just wonder what that what kind of a difference that would have made.
Well, we do know some of it.
Mm-hmm.
For example, the two missing chapters from the second volume elaborates on the relationship between Toru and Kreta, which, by the way, as I read the book, I did notice that was missing. I really did feel like of all the characters he interacted with, for some reason, him and Kreta they talk about it, but it never really goes anywhere. Like I did feel that was legitimately missing.
Yeah, her purpose in the book just seems like irrelevant almost, or just like she's just there to compliment Malta,
Yep.
like to be so that they could have an opposite like everybody else. But yeah, I'm reading the missing chapter notes
Yeah, they
now.
also cut a computer conversation between Toru and Noboru, which I think could have been interesting, but again, I don't know what that would have really added.
Um, mm, yeah, yeah. I guess none of this
Yeah. I mean, it is what
is
it
really
is.
that relevant. Yeah, but overall, what would you how would you rank this book especially compared to other books we've read?
So here's the thing, Matt. When I think about how I sum up this book, I really liked it a lot. Surprisingly enough, I liked it a lot. One of the few books I would say I couldn't put down. I found it engaging, interesting, unique. I would read it again because I'm sure I missed something. I would recommend other people read it. I don't know if it's a good book.
How would you define good? Like,
I don't know if it's like if you came to me and like, Sean, here are 3 reasons why this is a terrible book, I'd believe you. And if you came to me and said, Sean, here are 3 reasons why this is a great book, I'd believe you. Like I can't quite put a finger on the quality of it. I know I liked it. I know you liked it, but it's just so out of the norm for books in general, especially books that I read. It's very difficult for me to sit here and say, yeah, this is a great book. I don't know. I liked it. You might like it. You might not like it. I genuinely have no idea. It's a total friggin' toss-up. What I will say is, thankfully for the book, I think it starts moving fast. If you don't like it by like page 60 or 80, you're not going to like the book. Because I think it gets into it pretty quick, which I give it credit for. But where I would rank it compared to the other books we've read, it's apples to oranges. It's very hard for me to say. I think in terms of the fiction we've read, which frankly hasn't been a lot, The Witcher, and was there one other?
No, for fiction, The Witcher. I mean, you could probably count Of Dice and Men. Was that a fiction? That was a terrible fiction, but
yeah. I mean, it's better than The Witcher, I would say. I amongst like if I had to rank it amongst all of our books, it's definitely up near the top. It's certainly one of the best books I've read in a long time, I would say. I would say if you are looking for a complex fiction book, this is a good one. If you want a nonfiction book like the other ones we've read, probably don't read this. That is my summation of this, Matt. What do you have to say?
I'll promise you that for most of you out there listening, this will be a very different experience. Reading this book will be very different from what you're used to. And that's what I liked about it. That's what I liked the most about it, is that it's extremely Murakami is an author that is unlike many others. His style is extremely unique. And reading his books is having an experience that is rarely found elsewhere, seldom found in other forms of media. So I think a book like his is almost impossible to put in movie form. Like, just imagine, it would just be
I thought
so
about
hard
this today.
to do.
Mm-hmm. I agree, don't put this in a movie. I could see a limited series on Netflix, high production value, very stylized, 8 to 10 episodes. You'd have to cut a lot from the book.
Right. I think it would cease to be.
But you could do it. And I think it would be interesting.
I don't know.
Because
I think
with
it would
the right
cease to
effects mixing between the sort
same.
of supernatural world and our world, and I think it would be interesting. It wouldn't be the book though, and I agree with you on that.
The only way I could see a Murakami, and this is true for anything he's written, might be pegging, it might be I guess generalizing a little bit, but the only way I could see a Murakami film being made is in the studio Ghibli style
Animation.
animation of Miyazaki.
Yeah.
That's the only that's like when I read the books, that's kind of what I picture in my head anyway.
Sure.
Except most of his books are way too violent and promiscuous for a
very sexy. Yes.
yes for a Murakami, but just that style. It would have to be his style, like anime meets Walt Disney.
Gotcha.
No,
I agree with that.
But yeah, it's unique, and I definitely, of all the books that we've read, I want people to read this one more than all of the other ones, just so that they could have the experience that we both had through reading it. Doesn't mean you're gonna like it. Doesn't mean that you're gonna want to continue it. Like Sean said, you could get 50, 60 pages in, and if you don't like it by then, it's nothing.
It only gets weirder and longer from there.
It does.
So,
it does. So,
but it was for me anyway. It was a quick read, despite being 600 pages. I got through it quickly. Your results may vary, but it was. Matt.
It does move. Yeah.
When we did the original book summer reading club episode, and you listed your books, I chose this specifically because I wanted a challenge. I wanted something different than what I normally read. And I'm so glad that you suggested it and that I picked it, because it is very different from what I read. And this is going to proudly go on my bookshelf as a book I'm very happy to have read and enjoyed, and genuinely enjoyed a lot, which I don't get out of books too much these days. So very enjoyable. Great pick.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. And that concludes, I guess, our summer reading. Summer is now
congratulations. Over. Your assignment is complete. And already it's back to school. You've done your summer reading. And now you got to get back to...
That's right. Back to the school. Back to the old
classroom. Yep.
Sean, when are we doing this again?
Never. I'm sick of reading.
No more books.
The next time I go on vacation, that's the only time I read.
Is on vacation. Well, how about a staycation?
A staycation? Ooh, that's good.
Because I still have a number of your books that I want to read. I think and yours. I started League of Denial.
Yeah.
I finally got the name right. I started League of Denial recently after finishing one summer, and that's the next one I'm going to get through. And then I'm very excited to do Horns. I want to read Horns. So.
That'll be a great Halloween read for us.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll definitely have plenty more book clubs coming up for sure. It's a great topic for us. It gets our minds expanded, hopefully yours as well. Check out the Wind Up Bird Chronicle in a library near you. But Matt, that does it for this one.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna wrap it up here.
Right, as the Wind Up Bird once said, nevermore.
I don't know about that.
Quote the Wind Up Bird, nevermore.
That's true. This book does not have a lot of quotable lines.
No, none.
They are missing that.
Basically none.
Lots of long sentences.
Yeah.
No, that does it for us here. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. You can go to our website anytime, upfordebate.tv. Check it out. Get up to date on all of our past episodes. You can listen to XFL. You can listen to Bond. You can listen to our previous book clubs. There's a ton of great stuff up there. Check it out. Podcast available wherever you get podcasts, Stitcher, Overcast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, you name it, we're there. You can also get the video version on YouTube. Of course, you can follow us at Up for Debate TV on Twitter and email us upfordebatetv@gmail.com. Also, make sure you stay up to date on our movie draft, which continues on upfordebate.tv/movies. We've only got a few weeks left in the draft, and there's a lot still up for grabs. We'll be having the winner announced and our next draft in late September, early October. So that's coming up as well. A lot of good stuff on the horizon for the show, Matt. As we move into the holiday season, we're already planning our next Up for Debate Presents, which no spoilers yet, but that's going to be a great event. So make sure you subscribe wherever you get the show. You're going to want the freshest and the latest. On behalf of Matt, I'm Sean. Thanks, folks, for being here. We'll see you next time for another exciting edition of Up for Debate.